All right, thank you very much, everybody. And Jane has kindly provided today's acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge our elders and the community of this land and all our elders and communities of this continent and neighbouring islands. We thank them for their courage, strength, integrity and values. Now, I would like to welcome everybody to this confirmation of candidature for IPPE HDR student Jane Boyle. Today's milestone presentation. The panel is the chair, Professor Joseph Sirocci, and experts Dr. Taryn Sanders and Associate Professor Teresa Dickey. The HDR supervisory panel today is the Principal Supervisor being Associate Professor Jesse Gow, and Associate Professor co-supervisors by Professor John Marshall Reef, Dr. Guy Baskerard, and also Graham Stock. And we welcome everybody. So without further ado, Jane, I'd like to hand over to you, and I'll just ask everybody else to be on mute. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I would like to start, first of all, by thanking that wonderful team that you mentioned. We have such rich discussions in our weekly meetings, which are really thought-provoking and always leave me with a sense of, wow, why didn't I think of that? So thank you once again. I thank you as well to Graham for being here and agreeing to be my associate and supervisor from Stella. So thank you there.
You're on mute, Jane.
Oh, we've lost you, Jane.
I think sometimes when you go from mouse, thank you. Did you get the title?
No, you might just want to go back to your title.
Yeah, so we go back again.
Okay, I'll just use the mouse. Okay. Excuse me, everyone, just moving with the mouse. All right, so the title of this research is Designing Psychosocial Interventions which Motivate and Engage Secondary School Students in STEM Subjects Now and for the Future. The key terms. This thesis incorporates the key focus areas of psychosocial interventions, motivation, STEM subjects such as science, technology, engineering and mathematics, as well as the use of secondary school students as participants. Many studies over the years have used psychosocial interventions to promote interest in the individual STEM subjects with varying success. Some of these interventions highlight the use of role models by showcasing opportunities available in STEM fields, while others have utilised goal-setting interventions to encourage students to reflect on their current studies and make connections to their lives. None of these studies have used psychosocial interventions that combine role modelling and goal-setting simultaneously in relation to STEM subjects in Australia in the manner I will propose today. Participation in STEM subjects benefits individuals and nations in numerous ways. Individuals acquire dynamic and reflexive skills applicable across a broad range of industries and occupations. STEM subject participation typically leads to improved career prospects and stability, as well as higher salaries later in life. In 2021, it was estimated up to 85% of occupations require STEM skills and knowledge. However, in 2023, a predicted shortage of 47% in engineering, information technology and science across Australia was recorded. Currently, only 15% of women participate in STEM fields, and girls are half as likely as boys to aspire to a career in STEM. In fact, only 22% of girls wanted a STEM career compared to 43% of boys. In drawing upon my own personal experiences to make sense of the issues facing STEM enrolments, I reflected on several areas in my life. As a student attending a school in regional Victoria, many of the role models I observed worked in education or out on rural farming properties. Working as a teacher for many years, I observed many students with little confidence in themselves when in STEM subjects, with many uncertain of their future direction, with a lack of belief in themselves regarding what they could do. The high-impact teaching strategies released by the Department of Education encourages teachers to guide students to make goals in the classroom, to understand the success criteria of the lesson, and to form links with the assessment criteria. I wonder, can these goals connect with much larger goals to help guide subject selections for the future? As a mother of 3 children, I hear my daughter comment that she doesn't believe she's good at maths, while my other daughter informs me that she will be a teacher. Where have they got these ideas from? For myself as a student, again, one who also has doubts about their potential, I begin to wonder how much of our own self-belief and efficacy play a role in the directions we take in our own lives. So using these contexts and musings, coupled with previous research, provides a great source of inspiration for this thesis. The thesis will be conducted in 2 parts comprising 3 studies. The first study will involve a systematic review and meta-analysis of existing psychosocial interventions targeting STEM motivation. The findings of this study will inform the development of an innovative online intervention to increase STEM enrolment. The second study will be divided into 2 parts and focus on the creation and design of an innovative online program. Both Part A and Part B will feature role modelling and goal setting as individual and combined interventions. The amalgamation of the features of role modelling with goal setting with an interactive chatbot component promises to create a program that is not only innovative, but also effective in addressing the decline in STEM enrolments. Part A of this thesis will comprise the initial program, which aims to motivate students in their current studies, while Part B will include the same participants in the same interventions in a follow-up program designed to motivate students to enrol in STEM studies for their future. We will include both studies with a control group to form our analysis. The overarching definition of motivation provided by Reeve in 2024 directs our focus in this thesis across all 3 studies when exploring the internal processes of individuals when examining behaviour and future directions. Psychosocial interventions promote motivation by encouraging value, confidence and belief one holds in relation to a subject. Previous psychosocial interventions have sought to address some areas of motivation, but not multiple areas simultaneously. Most psychosocial interventions involve a single motivational construct to be measured, such as individual concepts of self-efficacy, expectation, and so on. The situated expectancy value theory represents a relevant theoretical framework guiding this thesis. The SEVT identifies and measures individual behavioural choices that one may have and take, and is divided into 2 overarching parts known as the psychological and the socialisation components. The middle section of the theory are the psychological components, which are the variables that may impact an individual's expectancy for success. Expectancy incorporates an individual's self-belief, their self-concept and their self-efficacy regarding how well they can complete the task at hand, their academic expectations, short-term and long-term goals, as well as their belief regarding how they are currently progressing. Tied into this component is the value an individual ascribes a task. This can include their interest, enjoyment, cost of time associated with one task or activity, and are known as intrinsic value, attainment value, utility value, and cost. The socialisation area, which appears on the left-hand side, refers to the individual environment pertaining to a person. This includes the individual context one grew up in, personal development factors, their previous achievements, their ethnicity, to their perceptions of stereotypes and gender role systems. The SEVT highlights many aspects of what an individual values and why, becoming a useful structure to guide our thinking in this thesis. Study 1. Accompanying this research question is our first hypothesis, which was the analysis will demonstrate psychosocial interventions which focus on aspects of motivation such as expectancy, attainment value, intrinsic value, and utility value will significantly improve student motivation in STEM subjects compared to those interventions which do not focus on those aspects of motivation. The guiding questions for this review focus on identifying which interventions improve motivation, which are the most effective, what aspects of the intervention are most effective, and are there any gender differences? The creation of the key search terms for this meta-analysis arose from the review and research questions as well as the hypothesis. This table represents our inclusion and exclusion categories. According to previous meta-analyses undertaken in this area, randomisation was lacking in several studies, indicating a difficulty in understanding true cause and influence of interventions applied. This category has been highlighted in yellow. The following studies have been located in the database searches. Each of the database results were uploaded into EndNote and then into Covidence. We are almost through the initial screening of title abstract of all the articles. I've been lucky to be guided by my supervising team in this area, as well as the additional support from the library in this process. Once all the records have been screened, data details such as study, sample, intervention characteristics, outcome, effect sizes, and engagement will be recorded. After the analysis of the studies, we will review the development and creation of the program to be applied in Study 2 to ensure it is grounded in evidence. The aim of this research in Study 2, Parts A and B, is to develop and test a psychosocial intervention based on the findings of the meta-analysis in Study 1 to enhance motivation in STEM subjects. Use of role models and goals combined are critical to achieving possibilities and knowing how to attain such possibilities. A role model can be a person who is admired that is not their teacher or mentor. Students can have their expectancies and values shaped by these role models by forming connections with their own ideals and ascribed worth. Goals can guide behaviour and influence outcomes regarding choices and decisions. It is a representation of an individual's need to fulfill an outcome by forming a connection between the present and any aspirations for the future. Within the SEVT, goals are strongly connected with one's ability as well as one's personal identity. An individual might not perceive themselves as capable in a STEM subject or might not believe that undertaking a STEM subject aligns with their social identity. This research question focuses on students within their current STEM studies. It has two current hypotheses attached to this. Hypothesis 2A articulates that students randomly assigned to participate in the combined role modelling with goal-setting intervention would become significantly more motivated when in their current STEM subjects than when in any other intervention. Hypothesis 2B indicates that female students in the combined role modelling with goal-setting intervention would become significantly more motivated when in their current STEM subjects compared to the other individual interventions. Study 2 begins with Survey 1, a baseline survey distributed to all to identify students' current studies prior to commencement of the program. Students will be randomly allocated into an intervention or condition of role modelling, goal setting, role modelling plus goal setting, or into an active control condition from within their designated science class when in Year 9. Part A commences with Survey 2 to identify current interest in STEM subjects. This will be followed by a link to the Inspire program in their intervention and condition groups. They will spend one lesson completing this program. At the conclusion of the lesson, participants will complete Survey 3 to identify any differences in their interest in STEM studies. Part A, the Inspire program. In the role model intervention, students will view videos of female role models in STEM fields and be able to ask questions of the chatbot to engage with the content presented. If they've been allocated into the goal setting intervention, they will create goals for their current studies and think about some of the challenges they face and find ways to overcome them when in their studies. If they are in the combined role model plus goal setting, students will complete both components. If in the active control condition, they will complete an alternative task that is not related to STEM, role modelling or goal setting. This is a view of what students will see when they commence the program. All students will have this view except for students in the active control condition. This is a view of the role modelling intervention. Students will be able to click on the videos and ask questions of a chatbot to elaborate on the information presented by the role models. Questions such as, what subjects did Sheena study at school, through to, what does Belinda do each day at work, will be some questions they could ask. This is the goal setting intervention content, where students are encouraged to create a SMART goal for their current studies. This is another screenshot of the program, demonstrating where the students can engage with the chatbot. The active control will also participate and connect with the chatbot. Study 2B. This research question focuses on students and their interest in selecting STEM subjects for the future. It has two current hypotheses attached to this. Hypothesis 3A, that students in the combined role modelling plus goal setting intervention would become significantly more motivated to select STEM subjects compared to students in the other interventions, while hypothesis 3B, that female students in the combined role modelling plus goal setting intervention would become significantly more motivated to select STEM subjects compared to female students in the other individual interventions. In Part B, the Enhanced program, students will be in the same intervention or condition from the previous program. However, they will now be in Year 10 in 2026. In this program, students in the role model intervention will view different videos from the Inspire program and engage with the chatbot. Students in the goal setting intervention will now create goals for their future using open goals. If in the combined, they will do both components of role modelling and goal setting. If in the active control, they will do an alternative task that is not related. This is the overall timeline across Study 2, Parts A and Part B. Now in Part B, the Enhanced program, participants will begin by completing Survey 4. In their same intervention or condition for the Enhanced, students will engage in the program for one lesson allocated. At the end of the lesson, participants will complete Survey 5 to identify future interest in STEM subjects for their senior years, and they will conclude with Survey 6, which comprises student subject selections. The design of Study 2 with two parts in an online program enables easy application for teachers into the classroom with potential scalability across all parts of Australia. Approximately 400 students will be involved in this research using 4 schools from a range of locations across Victoria and New South Wales. I am hoping to recruit from regional areas as well as metropolitan, with a focus on co-educational schools, with the application of all students viewing a female role model as a measurement of influence. Post-ethics approval, we will begin recruitment, and I feel confident, given my connections in Victoria from many years of teaching, that I will be able to achieve this, in addition with support from ACU partnerships in the education faculty across New South Wales. We've been lucky to receive DECRA funding for this research. The creation of the chatbot program and website and assistance with the meta-analysis will be incorporated into this funding. The videos for the role models have already been created by Stella, and this has been approved for use without charge. Thank you, Graham, for facilitating this. The timeline for this research across the 3 years identifies time spent on Study 1 in 2024 and specific times allocated for Study 2 into 2025 and 2026. Thank you for listening, and are there any questions? Should I stop sharing, Ricky, while the questions are being asked? Is that best?
Yeah, that's all right. So you could probably keep it up in case people have questions about slides that you might need to refer back to.
Yep.
And I'll just hand over to the chair, Joseph, to take over. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was a fantastic talk, and I'll ask a couple questions, and then I'll ask the chair for any questions, and then the audience. I really love this study because you've really kind of kernelized your intervention into like motivation and goal setting. And that really maps to my interest of being able to personalize therapy because you've got different components. And so that leads to my questions. First question is concerning the videos. So this is supposed to be basically a targeting motivation. Have you analyzed the content? Is there any kind of problem-solving stuff in there or other things that might mix with the if-then goal setting component?
What really drew us to the selection of these particular videos was, first of all, the time duration. So it's a quick 3 minutes for each of the videos. And what they often talk about is their journey, first of all. So they talk a little bit about some of the subjects that they've studied, and then they talk about some of the things that they do in their jobs each day. And most of the videos will talk about, I guess, the diversity of their background as well. They will talk a little bit about that they choose a variety of different subjects. So they weren't all mainstream STEM subjects. They might have talked a little bit about their background, perhaps a little bit of the adversity that they might have faced. They don't necessarily talk about goals per se, but they do talk a little bit about the journey.
Yeah, like things like emotion regulation, or I mean, I would just be curious. I really love the design, and I'd just be curious about how much other content is in those videos. Is it purely, I mean, so from a personalization perspective, the idea would be that you give people the components that they most need. So the more it focuses, say, just on motivation, the better, because then people who are highly unmotivated would get that. But if it has things like, here's how I deal with the emotions and the stress, then that, I would consider that emotion regulation. So that kind of leads to my second question, which is, I think the design is fine and it looks very powered. Do you have measures which would give you an indication of who might be best, who would benefit the most from a motivational intervention versus a goal-setting intervention? Because I'm just thinking of a post-hoc analysis where you can see if your motivation intervention works best for that group of people and your goal-setting intervention works best for another group of people, which again leads to personalization.
And look, it's really interesting, Joseph, when we are looking at the design of this particular intervention, is that we do actually offer, first of all, to all the students that they can select from any of those videos. So we kind of anticipate that they, depending on whether they are low achieving students, some of them might flick in and then flick out of it and then go and look at another one for a period of time. The design is that, and I've read from the literature, is that we really want to capture the low achieving students as well, because really we know from the research that those that have already decided to choose those STEM subjects will continue to do so. And so the design really is trying to focus on students that perhaps might be on the cusp of choosing those subjects. That's really what we're looking to do. So we're really trying to make sure that we've got a variety of videos that they can look and that it's engaging. And then once they're looking at it, that there'll be that relatability as well. We know without a doubt, and this is something that happens time and time again in the classroom that students that have very little interest, we're hoping simply that they will click in and it might spark something.
But if you're, let's say you're a student who's highly motivated, sees a lot of value, expects to attain success, then it may be that for those students, the motivational part may be less useful, but maybe they're bad at goal setting and that's what they need. So I'm just wondering, it's not, I know it's not central to your thesis, but I'm just wondering if you have a way to assess that, because your thesis could lead to personalized interventions where everybody doesn't necessarily get every component.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think that through the design of them being in multiple interventions, I think that we will be able to assess at varying points. In the Inspire program, they will be doing the SMART goals, which are very specific. And then we will conduct that survey at the end, and then they'll do the open goals in the enhanced program. And so hopefully we'll be able to measure to see whether there's been that difference. It might be that those that are in the combined will be able to do more of a drill down and an analysis to see that. But it's fascinating because I even said something to Jessie yesterday, just when you start thinking about this topic, more comes. Absolutely. There's more and more. Hopefully as we begin this journey that we can really start to see whether or not it is that role modeling might be more of an incentive than the goal setting, or it's both. It's the supercharge one.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's very, Taryn or Teresa, would you like to?
Yep. So I'll just start. My first question is, so firstly, thank you for the presentation and the very well-structured CoC document and presentation. So the whole guiding was very clear and it was very pleasant to read in that way. My first question is a big picture question about why the intervention has been split up into these two parts. Like, why is it a two-parter? Why is it not one intervention?
Look, I think like anything, we and ahed for quite a period of time, and this is certainly something that we are thinking about in terms of age. We know that through the exploration of psychosocial interventions that having multiple exposures, we know can bring about great benefits. We also know that even a single exposure in a psychosocial intervention can bring about great change. So I think knowing as well the research that says that sometimes adolescents, they've already made those decisions. So having the multiple prongs, so to speak, is really with this idea that we are continuing to reinforce the message, and hopefully it will work, because for many of the role modeling, they don't appear to be working, as we've said. There's been varied success, so we're really trying to make sure that this is something that hopefully will have success.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is about the situated expectancy value theory. So in that diagram that you showed, a visual representation, if you could go back to that.
Yep.
Yep. So it's a very complex theory and visual representation. I fully acknowledge that. My question is, when I look at this and I look at your research question, I just wondered where in your research, and I might have just missed it, will you also include the expectation of success within the variables that you are assessing? And will you kind of build the model in a way that it acknowledges the assumed mediation process that is in this
Absolutely, absolutely. So the way that we are designing those surveys, it's very much modeling the SEVT questions that are broken up into those core constructs. And some of those questions are simply also, it's much, I guess, a little bit like the surveys will ask them those individual questions at the beginning and then at the conclusion. So we're hoping that they will be shaped around that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Taryn?
Thanks. I'll echo the others. Jane, I thought that was a really good presentation, and as Teresa said, your COC is laid out quite nicely. I have a couple of sort of pragmatic questions, I guess. The first is, so your first study is a meta-analysis where the central question is, what are the psychosocial interventions that increase STEM motivation and how effective are they? And I'm wondering how you then go from that to assuming that you'll need a new intervention. Like if you finish your meta-analysis and there's a study in there that had an effect size of 0.8 and everybody loved it and it worked better for girls than boys and it kind of ticks all the boxes, what would be the added benefit of your intervention over what you're going to find in the literature? Like why not go to dissemination as opposed to a new intervention?
Look, I did some very preliminary reading, of course, prior to the creation of these particular interventions. And one of the conversations that I've had as I've been going through the meta-analysis is how pleased I am so far that it feels that it's very much aligned with our findings. However, part of the process is that I'm very much indeed open and receptive to new findings. I think that is the ultimate goal, that if there was something there, absolutely, I'd be jumping on it. I know that that would mean that significant changes. I am pretty confident that at this stage, again, effect sizes, once you drill down, there will be a lot more to it. But at this stage, I'm fairly confident that what I'm drawing out and what I've been reading as well, that it will be in alignment with what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. One of the difficulties of a CoC is that you're kind of expected to produce a study that you'll be doing in 3 years' time before you have the information to base that study on. So I think that's totally reasonable. I sort of want you to think a little bit about,
it's interesting.
What you think you're doing.
I definitely was finding even yesterday in having a discussion with Jessie that there are certainly some other moderators, and even to concur with what Joseph was saying, there were so many things already that I could expand to even deepen it, such as connections with parents and so on. But this one, we're really trying to focus on making sure that it's applicable in the school experience and making sure that it's something that's going to be not too intrusive for teachers. We know that there's teacher shortages across a wide array of places and spaces, and to be able to distribute such a program, hopefully with some effect, might that's our overarching purpose.
Yeah, I think that's great. My other question is, if you've had a think about what the risks of this intervention are and how you might mitigate it. So, when just not being a real domain expert here, my layperson concern would be that interventions that are designed to get students to think more about enrolling in STEM subjects and things like that might lead some students to enroll in STEM subjects that they don't complete, that they feel pressure or obligation or whatever to enroll in these subjects, and those subjects aren't particularly value aligned for them. And so a year and a half later, when they're sitting their HSC, they are really starting to struggle to stay in those. And the net result is a negative for them, because had they chosen more value aligned subjects, they might have done better and got better into something that was more aligned with them. How do you sort of mitigate risks like that that students might feel pressure or obligation because they're part of this intervention?
Well, I think first of all, it is interesting, like anything, some of the questions you raise are things that I have certainly thought in my mind, I guess more from a moral perspective as well, that you are bringing about change potentially, and what does this mean on a philosophical level and a moral and ethical level for some students. I certainly think that connected with this, we know that there is a lot in relation to achievement levels of students as well. And we know that some of the reasons why that students have, I guess, a belief that they might do it, they do have that connection with that as well. It is a challenge, absolutely, to think, are we going to change the trajectory of some students and then it might not work out so successfully? However, we do know that the importance of doing such subjects as we saw before is of incredible value. And I think that for many of our difficulties that students face when they are at university, it might also be a lack of support. It might be attributed to other things such as a lack of the role models in the industry. Those are so many other experiences, I guess, that are really beyond us. We're really tapping into this idea that students might very well have lost their belief along the way, but might be very, very capable. And we also know that a lot of those students could benefit greatly for their future. A lot of those students might have no inclination to do anything. And then all of a sudden, hey, I think I can do it. And it's like everything in life. If we have belief, can we do it?
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Jen.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, just moving this on to, from the audience? Okay, I guess with that then, Jane, I'll ask the audience to leave and the panel members to stay on. And Jane, if you could go offline, and then your supervisor will contact you when you're ready to get feedback.
No worries. No worries.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
Thanks, Graham.
Thanks.